Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Alexis and today I'm going to be sharing 5 books that I did not finish for the year of 2021. Essentially, I wanted to share these 5 books because one, I do intend on finishing them at some point. I also wanted to share my reasons for not finishing them, whether that be the writing style or the mood I was in and slash or the genre that I was trying out, but I wasn't sure and I'm still going to try again. So we'll just see where this goes. The first one is titled Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng, and let me just take a moment to acknowledge that the cleverness of the titles was just, but Little Fires Everywhere is a title that acknowledges the literal fires that are started, as well as the, controversy that starts in this suburban town. The show of the same name that's on Hulu is the reason why I wanted to pick up this book. It was inspired by Celeste Ng's story, and the show follows 2 families, very different cultures, very different backgrounds. So the suburban family with Reese Witherspoon as the mother, she is the mother of 3 children, 2 girls and a boy, and she is married. She, I believe, is the newspaper journalist of the local newspaper. So, or one of them anyway, one of the journalists of the local newspaper. And it follows her story overlapping with Kerry Washington's family. Kerry Washington's family is lower class black family consisting of a single mother and her daughter. They move into the suburban town, and this acknowledges, the cultural barriers, the class differences, and the importance of understanding said differences, especially when one of the other suburban families decides to fight for custody over an Asian child, and the Asian child's parent uh, wanted to be able to take care of her, but because of the circumstances as an immigrant and a lower class immigrant, couldn't take care of the child at the time. But this is them fighting over custody for that Asian child, and the 2 families with Reese Witherspoon and Kerry Washington, they have their own clashes about that, along with other discussions of race, sexuality, and just diving into those richer conversations that I think need to be had and aren't often acknowledged anyway in the content that we absorb, which isn't bad, but it would just be nice to see that, and that is what drew me to the series and by extension the book, which I started. I got about 2 chapters in. Let's see, I was at page 70 of 330, about 330, and it does start off a little slow, but I do intend on finishing it because, again, I want to make my own comparisons between the book and the show. I enjoyed doing that type of thing, being able to see differences. I mean, consider Harry Potter. Yes, there are a lot of differences, but they are both great in their own right. And the original content, of course, you always get more of the story, but the movie is definitely more action-packed. So they are very good in their own rights, as well as the Hunger Games series. I say the same thing. Anything that's inspired by a book, the book, it always has richer content because there's more to absorb, in my opinion, whereas the movie is more action-packed and it can be more direct in terms of the content that it's providing, but it still gets the essential bits of the story in when it's done right. So, with that being said, the next book I'm going to start with is An Extraordinary Union by Alyssa Cole. This is another first author for me, and this is about Elle Burns and Malcolm McCall. So Elle Burns, she is a former slave and very passionate about justice, and she finds herself being free, but returning to the South to spy for the Union Army. And Malcolm McCall is a detective for the Pinkerton Secret Service, who again would be a part of the Union side. And this is supposed to be two undercover agents finding love during a time of, war. This is a Civil War romance. I picked this up because one, I wanted to see more diversity in historical romances, and Beverly Jenkins, or my honorary title for her, Auntie Bev, she does create stories that are historical for African Americans. However, they are always post Civil War, so there's more opportunities for African Americans. Of course, during the Civil War, there are a lot of horrific things that happen, and when you consider the things that were happening at that time, it isn't something that is mostly happy or satisfying because of what they had to endure. So I wanted to pick this up and see how Alyssa Cole was able to tackle such prevalent historical time for American history, and just see how she creates her own happily ever after. I got about 54 pages in out of 252 pages, which isn't, again, a lot of a dent into it. It could have just been my mood at the time or the writing style, maybe a little bit of both, but I'm going to give it another shot and perhaps restart. So we'll see. The next one, first by Courtney Milan, The Duke Who Didnt. This is a story about Miss Chloe Fong and Jeremy Wentworth, who is the Duke of Lansing. And this is supposed to be friends to lover, somewhat second chance because it's years later, I think. I got about 96 pages in out of 335, 34, something like that. And I don't know, I felt as I was reading this that the writing style wasn't something I was attracted to. I'm going to try it again. The story is a little slow. Essentially, Chloe's father is trying to make this special sauce and sell it, mass produce it, whatnot at the time. And Jeremy, he hides his true identity of being the Duke who owns all the land that they live on, and it's supposed to follow them. So, false identity ish, friends to lovers, and we'll see. I don't know. I'm not too attracted to the plot as I started, but essentially, there's not a lot of Asian American historical romances or Asian historical romances at all that I'm aware of. So I wanted to pick this up, and we'll see where it takes me. Or I should say, this isn't even taking place in America. It's supposed to take place somewhere in Europe. But again, I wanted to diversify my read, and this was one of the ones I picked up at the time. So we'll see if I pursue much further. The next one by Shelley Thacker, Falcon on the Wind. And this is supposed to be a story about deception and desire. So when Sir Connor of Glenshill is betrayed by a French ally, he decides to kidnap Lady Lauren from the steps of Notre Dame on her wedding day. And there is immediate attraction, but they're kind of hate to love story. And I started it a little bit. I got 64 pages in, 65 pages in out of 385, and it's supposed to be a Highlander romance. So I wanted to pick it up because the abroad and time period. The hero does seem to be brute and sexist, so I don't know if I'm going to continue. I mean, of course, historical romance is there, it's kind of to be expected, misogynistic tendencies or sexist tendencies. So I don't know. This is just a questionable story. I mean, I just started, and uh, Lauren is kind of rebellious. I mean, she comes from a family where she doesn't really know her father. Her brother, I believe, abandoned her, and then her stepfather took over her care, but he wasn't a good person, so he's kind of like marrying her off to another not good person, and she is rescued slash kidnapped by a Scottish man. So also the cover is very nice. I mean, all these covers essentially snagged my attention. So it is what it is. And the last one that I kind of ashamed that I didn't finish because this author, I mean, I just praised her, and this is one of the books that I did not finish by her. So it's Beverly Jenkins, The Taming of Jessie Rose. I essentially started this, I believe, one of her first books that I picked up. I at this point, by the time I started reading this, I had already finished the Destiny trilogy and her Old West series, and then I started going into the books that are considered standalones. Although I realized later that there are some overlapping plots and characters, so I will be eventually doing a video about those. But this one is supposed to be about Jessie Rose Clayton and Griffin Blake. So Jessie Rose Clayton, her family owns a ranch, and she's trying to take care of it. Her father's wrongly killed, and it's just her and her nephew she's taking care of after her sister had already passed. So it's those two on the ranch, and Griffin Blake, she hires him to help on the ranch. So yeah, this is supposed to be their love story. I mean, I got a good chunk into this book too, maybe 2/3 out of the 360 something pages. I got a good chunk, and then I hit this point where it was getting really history heavy. Not that that's bad, but it for me it dragged the story to the point where I needed to pause for a long period of time. And and I ended up taking out my bookmark because I know I'm going to want to restart. It's been a while, and I want everything to be relatively fresh in my mind. So that is all, and that concludes my 5 books for the 2021 did not finish pile. I will be discussing my other books that I own but that I didn't start, but I do plan on reading. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and until next week, bye.